nothing might leave you out of place. I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going state to state.
What's going on, Straight Talk Faithful? It's your host, your boy, George Mackay, back with another one. And this one is big time, real big time. Please help me welcome to Straight Talk Wrestling, the one and only 14-year veteran, Bill Collier. How are you, sir?
Oh, man, doing good. How are you?
I'm great, man. It's 12 o'clock noon. We're going to sit down and talk wrestling on a Sunday. Is anything better than this in life right now? I don't think so.
Absolutely not. Other than friends and family, no, absolutely not. What else could we do on a Sunday afternoon?
Well, with COVID, not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot.
Yeah, that's terrible. So how are things up there with COVID and all that? Because down here things are loosening up a little bit. They seem to loosen up and then they tighten up, then they loosen up and tighten up. We're fortunate enough to get get a few events under our belt here and there. But how are things going up there?
Well, unfortunately, we have been the top story for a lot of you guys in the U.S. It's apparently getting bad to worse. Our numbers are spiking. We're on like a serious lockdown, and our wonderful premier wants to tighten the noose even more to the point where police can stop us at any time. We can't go from city to city. So if you live in Brampton, where I live, you stay in Brampton. If you live in Toronto, you stay in Toronto. You live in Barrie, you stay in Barrie. If you get caught jumping regions, could be big fines. It's almost like a dictatorship over here, man. It's crazy right now.
Wow, that is absolutely crazy. It is. I mean, and it's hard to say what the right answer is at this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And even though we have the vaccine, we all know the vaccine doesn't stop you from getting COVID. All it does is decrease your symptoms. So you can still spread, whether you're asymptomatic or symptomatic, or it's exhausting. It's exhausting, but you got to find the positives, and the positives are that I've been able to sit down and have conversations with people like you, and that keeps my mental stability in check. That and my beautiful wife and my two little kids, they keep me in check all the time.
I have two beautiful kids as well. The age gap between them is 22 years. My son's 22 years old, and my daughter is she'll be 8 months.
Well, that's perfect, though. That means the big brother's already ready for when boys come a knocking. Now, obviously, dad is ready as well. But when boys come a knocking, they got to deal with dad and the big brother.
Dad stays ready. I mean, with COVID, like we said, with all the lockdowns, I took the liberty of I was one of the gym guys that were left out in the cold, and with nothing. I come home and I had like a bench and a few bands and some 10-pound dumbbells. And if you've ever seen me work or seen me in person, I'm not the biggest guy, but I'm a pretty big guy. 10-pound dumbbells are not going to get it done.
No.
So, so I went ahead and it was hard to do, and it took a while, but I have a full-blown gym in my house, and that's actually where I'm at right now. You can see some of the equipment here, but that way this doesn't happen to me again. And it's enough to torture myself, and it's enough to get done what I need done. But it was tough. It was another one of those things, like I can't not train. If you're going to take wrestling away from me, that's fine, but like I can't not train. Like I need to be ready. So I went ahead and built a full gym at home.
Well, that's good. And that's the smart thing that a lot of people even here have done as well. I am not a gym guy, as you can clearly see. I do like my food, but I try to eat my vegetables and eat healthy as much as I can. But I do love my cakes and my cookies and my ice cream and my 3 cups of coffee a day. So
well, that's my bugaboo too. Food. I love food. So I have to train extra hard because of the way I eat.
So you've said that, you were able to at least get some wrestling, events under your belt, and nothing has been no bigger in my opinion, and probably for you, than the 3 appearances that you've had on AEW, 2 on Elevation, 1 on Dark.
That was huge. It was unbelievable. I got the email for extra work. That was in the works for a while, but I got the email for the confirmation for extra work, and I went down to Jacksonville with no real expectation. I didn't expect to walk in and them say, "Hey, how about hopping in the ring with, the face of our company here with John Moxley, or one of our other top guys, Adam Page. The John Moxley match aired first, but the first match that I did was the 6-man tag against Dark Order. And I saw the 6-man tag, Dark Order, and that's still, it's their top faction. I was like, this is pretty cool. That's kind of what I expected, like tag stuff, some stuff here and there. Middle of the road, I didn't expect a lot. When I come out of the ring from the 6-man tag, there were a lot of people waiting for me at the curtains. Like, wow, that was pretty impressive. And so the very next night, I'm in the ring with John Moxley, and that was a big deal. Like, probably one of the first times that I can, in recent memory, that I can actually remember being that nervous walking to the ring.
But it was a nervous excitement, right? Because I know you
Absolutely.
earned this spot. I know you earned
because
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at this point, if we're being honest, John Moxley is probably one of the top 5 most recognizable guys in the business today. Easily one of the top 5 stars in the business today. He's probably the face of AEW right now. And it's on his, it's in his ring, it's on his turf, you know what I mean? So that added to it. At least if I were to catch him out, out in the independent somewhere, there'd still be those nerves, maybe not as much. But this was like the top guy in his backyard. So it was like, all right, this is a lot of pressure, guys. Let's see if it's time to sink or swim. Like you're saying, what's that 14-year veteran experience to the test right here?
Absolutely. And one of my favorite moments of that match was that amazing drop kick. You rung his bell, and the height that you got on that drop kick was incredible. I mean, a lot of nowadays, big men are big men that wrestle like small guys. You got guys like Jacob Fatu over at MLW. He wrestles like a cruiserweight, but he's close to 300 pounds. And then you got Kevin Owens in WWE. Again, a guy my size, 260, 270, and he's running around like he's 190 pounds dripping wet. And then it goes for you. Guy 6 feet something, 270, cut like a rock, and you took flight and it was a standing drop kick. There was no running there. It was a stand and deliver drop kick. And man, I thought you rung his bell. I went up to the TV. I was like, is he knocked out right now? He looks like he might be. Like it was incredible athleticism, and that's a credit to you and how hard you work. But tell me about let's go back for a little bit. Let's go back to your 14-year career before we go back to AEW. Over 400 matches, 470 something, if my research has done me correct. Now, mind you, the internet is always wrong, so it's never 100%.
It's probably double that.
Okay. So we're almost at 1,000.
I would say somewhere between 8 and 1,000. Yeah, 800 and 1,000. Because there's a lot of stuff. Like if you do some research, there's a lot of, like, even I looked and I know where a lot of people get their information from. That there's a lot there. But when I go down and look, I'm like, wow, there's like huge gaps of like loops I've done where I've done 10 matches in a weekend because we do like tapings. One particular, I know that I do a series of tapings, and they call themselves IWWA now, but I bet I wrestled for them for 5 or 6 years, and the advertisement was just live pro wrestling, and they would do like local TV stuff, and we would do loops through West Virginia, sometimes Thursday to Sunday, wrestling 2 or 3 times a night for these tapings that they would do. Now, I'm not from West Virginia, so I've never seen a minute of this footage, but it's out there and those matches exist. Somebody somewhere has seen them. So there's a lot not there, but it's probably closer to 800 to 1,000.
Well, that's incredible. And that's a credit to you and how hard you work. Now, one question I do got to ask, right? A story I got to tell that you may appreciate is I discovered you in February of 2020. And the reason that sticks out to me is because I saw Speedball Mike Bailey for the first time at a crossbody show in Kitchener. I approached him about coming on the show, and he was like, absolutely, man, we'll set it up. So once we scheduled a date, I start doing my research because I want to get to know these people more on a professional and personal level. And I came across a match with you and him at Greektown Wrestling, and you obliterated him to no point. Like, it was a hard fought battle back and forth. You guys went to town on each other, but you got him with that knockout punch. You dropped him in the middle of the ring. And that's where I discovered you for the first time.
It was fun. The one thing about the one like drawback to that is that was his only match for the night. So there was a lot of stuff he has a lot in his bag. Like, he has a lot of stuff that he can do. He's one of the most athletic guys I've been in the ring with. I had 3 matches lined up for that night. So I kind of pumped the brakes a little bit on the match with him. It's like, okay, because I have this, then I have this, then I have this. I wouldn't mind another match with him where it's just me and him and we can really unload. And because like we only really scratched the surface of what I think him and me could do. Give us a one-on-one where we're the only match on the card for both of us, and it could probably get a lot better than what you saw there.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. But if you scratch the surface and pump the brakes, then I don't want to see you at full tilt, because if that was pumping the brakes, that was incredible, because full tilt is probably insane.
Yeah, absolutely. That was and again, I don't want to say because like you said, it was insane. It was really good. I haven't taken anything away from the audience, but there was I think we did 8 minutes maybe, where give us 12 and then really watch us work.
Yeah.
For 8 minutes, I'll give you 8 minutes, and I'll give you an intense 8 minutes. But like, again, I'm a bigger guy at 260 pounds. I gotta have something in the gas tank for match 2 and match 3.
So talk to me about some of the cool things that I always love talking about. I love talking to veterans, to legends, to anybody I can really have these conversations with. And that's what I always state. When you're on Straight Talk Wrestling, it's not interviews, it's conversations. It's you and I kicking back. We're going to be comfortable. We're going to enjoy it. But with not being able to wrestle on a consecutive basis, and a lot of people don't understand ring rust. It's a real thing. So is it harder? Is it harder to wrestle here and there and then kind of dust off the ring rust when you can? Or is it more difficult to not wrestle for a full year, let your body completely heal, then go back? Which type of ring rust would be more difficult?
I would say consistency is the key. I've heard a lot in this business. Motion is the lotion to keeping your body fresh. Right now, I'm at about 2. I went from like 7 or 8 gigs a month to maybe 2. And as we pointed out, 14 years in the wrestling business, you can guess by just that number alone, I'm not a young man anymore. So 2 or 3 times training, right? I still go to training probably twice a month. Training for me now is about a 5-hour drive. But I try to stop in when I'm in town and work out a little bit with the younger guys. But it would definitely be harder if you took a longer period off. When COVID first hit and lockdowns first happened, I think it was, I want to say 6 months before I was in the ring again. That was a 6-month gap. It was the longest gap I've had since I started. And like many people, when all the shutdowns started happening, I got frustrated. I got frustrated fast, and I got frustrated now, because it was everything that I've done for the last like 14 or 15 years. Here's going to the gym, here's traveling, going to wrestling events, all of that gone now. So when I finally built my home gym, I said, you know what? I'm going to unplug from the wrestling business completely. I didn't watch it, didn't talk about it, didn't do it, wasn't around it at all. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to stay in my gym. I'm going to work out hard. I'll be ready. But over that 6 months, I really got heavy into lifting again and probably put on a good 15, 20 pounds. A good 15, 20 pounds. Not a sloppy 15, like a good 15, 20 pounds. But now all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, I'm back in a ring. Like from the time that like this is a possibility to it actually happening was like 2 weeks. So now I'm 15 pounds heavier, although good shape. That 15 pounds was a lot to carry around. But now that we're moving on a fairly consistent basis, like 1 or 2 a month or 2 or 3 a month, it gives my body time to heal, and I stay fairly fresh.
But when you put on that extra good 20, 15 to 20 pounds, did you have to change up your repertoire? Did you have to change up what you did in the ring because you had that extra weight to carry?
It really didn't dawn on me. It really didn't, like, until, because the first day back was a double shot right away. It was one in the afternoon and then one later that night.
Nice.
And I opened up at IWC in Pittsburgh against Andrew Palace, who, by the way, just made his appearance on AEW last week.
Yes, I did see that. Yes, I did.
Really good guy. Andrew Palace is fun to watch. He'd be another good guest. But we opened up, and I want to say bell time was 1 p.m. And when the bell rang, it was probably 95 degrees outside. I'm 15 pounds heavy, haven't been in a ring in 6 months. I'm like, this is not going to go well. We did about 10 minutes, and him and me, and he's in really good shape too. Him and me both were like, all right, enough of this 95-degree heat outdoors. Well, then later that night, I closed for Imagine Wrestling in Altoona, Pennsylvania, against Spencer Slade, who also made his appearance on AEW this week. IWC and Imagine Wrestling being represented very well. So later that night, now Spencer Slade is, if you've ever seen this kid, he's shredded, to the tens. And I'm like, all right, this kid's gonna want to go. So let's see what we got. And we probably did 20 minutes. And by that time at night, it had cooled down to about 80 degrees. And we did about 20 minutes. And I was really happy with the way things felt, with the way I felt. But through natural progression of, like, okay, now we're running every month. Here's 2 or 3 gigs. My training has adjusted accordingly. I'm back to around my legitimate weight is probably 250 or so. I'm back to around 250. That's what I like to call fight weight, like 250. I feel good, and my body doesn't hurt. I'm not sore. I'm not traveling as far every weekend. But I'm ready for things to open up and get back to a real sense of normal.
100%. But you know what's been cool? What had to have been cool is you said your daughter's 8 months old. So
Yes.
COVID was able to get you to spend probably way more time with her than you would have been able to had the world been regular, right?
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. Because when my girlfriend had told me that we were having a baby, that's always good news to hear, huh? The weekend before, I had rolled my ankle in a cage match really bad. This was January of 2020. This was just before everything started breaking down. And I went to the gym, and my ankle was swelled up. It looked like a softball. And I come home, and I'm talking to her, and I'm just so full of my own bullshit. And I'm just talking about my ankle, and she's smiling at me, and I'm just like, what are we smiling at? What's going on? This is serious business over here. This is my ankle. And that's when she laid the news on me, and I was like, wow, like, I'm really going to do this again. I'm going to be a father again, because raising my son was easily the best experience of my life. But again, this should tell you something. The 22-year age gap, not a young man anymore. How's this going to go now? And then just 2 months later, everything starts shutting down. I thought, like, wow, I'm really going to bring a kid into this world, and everything seems like it's just falling apart out there. What are we going to do? And between both of my children, like having the birth of my daughter and my son around, it's as bad as things get out there. You can look inward and see what's going on in your own life and be like, no, I'm still pretty fortunate, And like you said, I got to spend a lot of time with her that I probably normally wouldn't have, because I'd be traveling, and you don't bring an 8-month-old baby on the road, man. But so I'm very fortunate. I got to spend a lot of time last summer with my son too, which was fantastic.
And that's awesome. Like, I'm a girl dad. I have 2 daughters. I have an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're both crazy. But I love them to death.
Absolutely.
But But one of the things I miss, and this is probably a cool moment from you for being a fellow girl dad like myself, is sometimes the babies cry at night. It's inevitable. It happens. So you got to, as a dad, you got to step in and tell your wife, unless she's, breastfeeding, you say, hey, listen, babe, I got it. I'm going to take this one. And some of the coolest moments where I would literally go into the nursery, we'd have one of those old school rocking chairs, but we had like the padding on it so your butt doesn't fall asleep.
Absolutely.
And I would hold her, I'd feed the bottle, and then she just grab your finger. She wraps her hand around your finger. And for that brief moment in time, it's only you and her and
Absolutely.
that comfortable silence. That was one of my favorite memories from both my kids.
She still does that because she's still really little yet. She'll still do that. And every once in a while, if we're playing, if we're sitting on the floor, I'm feeding her, she does that. And here's a cool little story. I can remember, because when my son was born, it was like, cool, like here's my buddy. And he's my buddy. And I kind of have those moments with him because we both ride motorcycle, and we'll be out on a ride and he'll be out in front of me, and I'll have that moment where it's me and my boy and we're out riding, and it's a good feeling, you know what I mean? And everything just feels at peace. And when I found out I was going to have a little girl, I was scared. I was like, all right, I'm going to mess this up. I'm not going to know how to do this. I'm not going to be a good girl dad, like you said. And when she was born, and the minute they laid her down on mom first, and mom kind of has that time with her, but the minute they take her and they move her over and they start getting her cleaned up to, get her measured, get her weighed and all that, she's sitting there under the light, and I reached over, and the first thing she did was she grabbed a hold of my finger and squeezed it really tight. And I can just remember thinking like, wow, she's really strong. And that's when right there, I was like, that's daddy's little girl. So I had my little boy, and now here's my little girl. And I knew in that moment, I'm not going to mess this up. Things are going to be all right.
Absolutely. And you know what? Things are going to get a lot cooler. I'm a big macho dude, but I'm a big teddy bear and a softie when it comes to my kids. And one of the things you got to look forward to is tea parties. You will wear a crown. You will wear a boa, and you will like it because you have no choice.
Absolutely. Because like when my son was little, it was everything I did as a kid, because I'm still a big kid at heart. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, cool. We're getting the wrestlers out. Let's get them out. And I can remember there was a period of probably a good period of 4 or 5 years, and that's a long time, where our dining room was no longer a dining room. That was our wrestling arena. We had the entranceway, we had the ring, we had like the commentary tables, we had everything. And this is what was set up on the dining room table for a while. It was like, all right, kid, let's go play. And we'd go play, or we'd go outside and do stuff. And it was unbelievable, man. And those are the moments that, like, when people ask me, some of your favorite moments in wrestling, it would be like, I'd have the TV on, we'd be watching Monday Night Raw, we'd be playing right here. That's my favorite memories of the business right here. Not even being in it and doing it, like watching it and playing with my son. But yeah, now I'm looking forward to being a princess dad.
It is a pretty cool feeling. And let me tell you something, man. You start to really appreciate Disney, and thank God for Disney Plus, because it's a godsend to fathers like us, because we can keep up on all the new hot stuff. So when Christmas rolls around, we know exactly what's popping, and we know exactly how to handle it.
Right now, it's 101 Dalmatians. She gets fussy. 101 Dalmatians settles her right down.
My 5-year-old is into that new one that just came out, Rayu and the Last Dragon.
Okay.
Badass warrior sword fights and stuff. That's one you and your missus and the little one, even your son, your 22-year-old son would dig it. I'll put my money on that. I will. Right. I'll put my money on that.
We'll check that out then.
Absolutely. So, you know what's kind of cool though, is that you being in the wrestling business and now bringing in a little girl, when she starts discovering wrestling, because she's going to want to know what daddy does for work. She's in a time period where women are second to none, and she's coming into some of the best women in the game.
Absolutely. And for years, that's all the women wanted in the business. If you hear any of their interviews, that's all they've ever wanted in the business is for it to be what it is now. And think about how many women got passed over or didn't get the opportunity to showcase what they could really do like they do now.
Mhm.
Imagine, because you'd see women like Trish Stratus, who was already at the top of her game, like already one of the like most respectable women wrestlers there were, from what she started at to what she became. Lita, Jazz, Victoria, Beth Phoenix. Think about what these, or Gail Kim, what they would have been if they would have just been allowed to have these classic matches all the time. Like, to see what the women are doing now, it's like, wow, these women are fantastic. And right now, are there any two better than the Raw and Women's the Raw Women's Champ, the SmackDown Women's Champ? Are there any two better than Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair right now? Like, those two are on top of their game. They're unbelievable. The moment at the Women's Royal Rumble, when they both wound up on the outside of the apron and made that eye contact, knowing they're the last two. It's like, all right, whoever wins this, the fans are getting their money's worth.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter who it's going to be. I was like, this is going to be great.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
you felt that moment. It was like, wow, this is amazing. You can feel that. For anyone that says that what we do isn't real, watch something like that, or watch. You get, sometimes you don't really get the emotion that goes on because we're in character so much in the ring, and what you see is very character driven. Um, you don't get to see cracks in that very often. And when you saw Bianca Belair like break down almost before her match with Sasha Banks, that's the realism of what we do. Like, that was her years of hard work and dedication landed her in that spot. A lot of people will say things like, and I heard this about myself just recently in the past few weeks. Well, you deserve it. You deserve it. No, you don't. You deserve nothing. You get what you earn, not what you deserve. And she earned every bit of that. And that was all her hard work and everything she earned in that one moment. And kudos to Sasha Banks for giving her a second to let her get that out. That true professional right there.
100%. And it was, what was a great moment for me about that is that here's my 11-year-old who's conflicted and torn because she's a Sasha Banks girl, but she loves Bianca. So
Okay.
me being the shit disturber that I am, kind of beside her the whole time of being like, who are you gonna choose, buddy? I mean,
Who's it going to be?
is it going to be Sasha, or are you going to switch over to Bianca? Are you going to be one of those bandwagon jumpers? Well, Dad, I liked it from the beginning. No, it's not about the beginning. It's about right now. What's the moment now? And my wife's just smacking me. She's like, would you stop torturing our kid? I'm like, I got to know. But then there's my 5-year-old who walks right in front of me. She doesn't take any shit. She looks me square in the eye. She goes, these two don't matter. It's all about Rhea and Asuka. And I said, okay.
Oh, she has her right.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's an Asuka freak. But then when Rhea won, she's like, Daddy, I like her. I want a jacket like her. I'm like, all right, well, you're 5. Let's get comfortable before I'm okay with you wearing all leather all the time. Okay, please. I'm not ready for that.
and for me, I'm a huge Rhea Ripley mark. Like, when I first saw her, I was like, she is a star. Wow, she's a star. She's impressive from the moment she comes through the curtain till like she goes back through. She's a star the entire way. And much different look on her face. Almost like she almost had that look on her face like, I'm here because I earned it and I know I put the work in. And this is my time. A huge difference. But speaking of who are you going to choose? Who are you going to choose? A few years ago, although wasn't a very long match, a few years ago, I had taken my son to New Orleans for WrestleMania 34.
Nice.
And there was that John Cena Undertaker moment where you can imagine my son was born in 1998. So when he starts understanding wrestling by 2002 and 3 and 4, who's the man? Who's the guy in the business?
John Cena.
John Cena. So now he's the guy. Now me, I'm a little younger. The Undertaker was always the guy. So, and I'll admit to a degree, like if I had to pick 1 and 1A, Undertaker and Cena. I know a lot of people give Cena flack, but tell me where the bad John Cena match was. Yeah.
I can't. I really
Yeah.
can't.
if you can show it to me, because John Cena was on top of his game the entire time. But we're in New Orleans, and it's time. Cena versus Undertaker. Who do we got? And this stings a little bit, but we kind of left Cena hanging high and dry. We were both with Undertaker.
Sorry, John. Sorry, it had to be.
If it were anybody else, John, but it's the Godfather here. It's the Undertaker. It's the guy.
Oh yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. John Cena was the man, and Mike's skills aside, or trying to find out who he was as a character, he was always at the top of his game, even in the younger days with the mics. Just thankfully, he found the doctor of thugonomics, and he got away from that. I'm gonna wear the same colored shorts as all your sports teams. Like I'm just happy he found who he was, and he went with it, and which was great.
Now I have this argument comes up a lot with John Cena that I really like. And they said, well, in the Attitude Era, he wouldn't have been nowhere near as big of a star. And that's when I'm like, excuse me?
He would have been bigger, in my opinion.
Bigger, absolutely. Imagine, because you're getting PG John Cena. Imagine, Attitude Era, taking the chains off this guy and just letting him run. He would have been maybe not the top babyface, but he'd probably been the top heel in the company.
Oh, 100%.
He's him being able to just say and do whatever he wanted. I was like, that's scary. That would have been frightening to see. I was like, be fortunate that you got him in this era and not that one, because you'd have hated him for another reason.
So I got to circle back to AEW now, because I got to know, this is a question for my own personal reference. You get to wrestle Jon Moxley, and you get to wrestle the Dark Order, and you get to wrestle Hangman Page. Now, Moxley and Hangman Page at the top of their games. Hangman's still got a lot more ceiling. So does Moxley. So does yourself. But who hits harder? Because you took a couple good chops from Moxley and a couple good chops from Page. So who hits harder? I got to know.
That's a tough one. I would say physically stronger is probably Jon Moxley. It's probably physically stronger. But Adam Page is a lot snappier and quicker. So those are two different, when you get hits, wow. Moxley, you can kind of see it coming. Is the heavy lumber, heavy-handed. What's weird is when you see guys on TV, sometimes you don't get a perception for how big they are. Jon Moxley is a lot bigger in person than he looks on television.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, a lot bigger in person than he looks on television. And then you have somebody like Billy Gunn, who's way bigger in person than he is on television. It's like, wow, this guy, massive. You don't get it. You have no gauge for how big this guy is until you stand in the front of him. He's probably legitimately a good 6'5", every bit of 270. Yeah, guy's a big guy, but Moxley's a lot bigger than he looks on television as well.
Wow. And you know what I think overwhelms me on television as well is that buckshot lariat that Hangman Page does, that he wins 90% of his matches with. When he backflips over the top rope and he's running at you with his arm out, and it's coming. Can you really prepare for the hard hitting buckshot lariat? Because I know that thing seems underwhelming on TV. To take one in the ring must be insane.
It was, and he has pinpoint accuracy with it too. Because when he comes over the ropes, that's a difficult thing to do. He has, if we'll break down the fourth wall a little bit here, and you're gonna think when he front flips over, he loses sight of everything. He loses sight of where his opponent is, where the ring is, the canvas. Everything. So for him to be able to land on his feet and take a split second and still hit his mark, that's a testament to his athleticism. That's a wow. Admittedly, I don't watch a lot of wrestling these days. Not because I'm I'm not watching wrestling because it sucks and I hate wrestling. It's more again, trying to fit it into your schedule. It's all right, do we have time for this? Do we have time? And I'll sit down and I'll watch some stuff here and there. And his buckshot lariat was one of the things that I've seen recently that really stood out. Now, when I'm watching, I'm kind of breaking it down. Okay, how are they doing this? What are they doing different? And I noticed foot placement on both Adam Page and his opponent. So when I saw that I was wrestling Adam Page, I knew exactly where to be and when to move to make that look as good as I could, just by sheer happenstance. It's like you couldn't write that. That was one of the things recently I committed to memory. Was like, I see where he lands, I see where his opponent is, and I see where the lariat actually takes place, and the footwork involved in that. And I was like, if I ever find myself in the ring with this guy, not 2 weeks later, I'm standing across the ring from him. I was like, I know exactly where to be for this.
Wow.
It's the small things sometimes.
Absolutely. But that's a testament to you and always being ready. Even when you don't know if it's going to happen, you're being ready. You're watching the footwork, you're watching the placement. And that's a testament to us as human beings. We never stop learning. We never stop growing. I mean, I started this podcast 4 years ago with not an idea of how to do anything, nothing. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then it progressed. I had a co-host. I lost a co-host. And then I just decided to do it on my own and start having these conversations. And it's gained traction. But I don't care about the traction. I didn't get into this for the numbers. I got into this for selfish reasons. I'll be honest with you, Bill. If we could break down the fourth wall, I got into this so I could just talk wrestling with some amazing people. And now I can add you to the list. And that's incredible for me. That really is.
And we're carrying on some pretty good conversation.
Absolutely. We've broken down the fourth wall. We've talked about boas and princess tiaras. We've had a blast. We talked about how you coded your son from a John Cena fan to an Undertaker fan. It's incredible.
We're doing it here. Absolutely.
So if there's a fan out there, a young man or young woman that's watching this and is looking at you like, okay, 14 years in the business, still going strong, still going healthy, still, getting what he's earned. How do I get what I've earned? How do I start my journey in pro wrestling?
All right. The first thing you have to do, and this was years ago, even before I got into the business, and this made sense to me. I heard The Rock on, it could have been some late night talk show, and The Rock's advice was, first thing you have to do is to find a reputable training school. You can't go to like Joe Smith's wrestling. He said you have to go somewhere reputable where they turn out quality wrestlers. And that made sense to me because my first journey into the wrestling business, I showed up at a wrestling school in the area. There's an independent wrestling company who had a pretty good following, and they brought in really good guys. They had like Joey Mercury there, Julio De Niro was there. They had some regulars that would come in that were credible name guys for the time in the area. And I thought, well, no, this has got to be a good place to go. Absolutely. Well, you get there, and not quite what I thought wrestling training was or should be. I ran the ropes a few times. I took a few bumps, and I did a few moves safely and did them pretty crisp. And they look at me and they're like, well, our next event's in 6 weeks. You'll be on that. And I thought, all right, I know how to wrestle already. This is great. This is just wrestling. Well, then the event comes up and I have the match, and the guy that I originally had messaged, his name is Ken Downs, didn't have a training facility at the time. Well, I come back behind the curtain and he had a laundry list of things for me. He's like, how long have you been training? What have you done? He's like, don't take this personally, but you probably shouldn't be out there right now. And I'm like, I don't know how to wrestle. And he broke down. You're like, you did this, you could have did this. You did this, you could have did this. And he didn't sugarcoat anything because I'm a grown ass man. And he didn't have to handle me with kid gloves, and he didn't. Well, fast forward a few months later, and I wind up at his training school. And he says, "Look, you're a big guy. You're a great athlete. You look good." He said, "But you don't know shit." He said, "So I'm going to break you down, and we're going to teach you how to work." And over the next few months, I'm like, this is wrestling. This is wrestling training. And Ken Downs, like 100%, got me ready to be the person I am. When I was done at his training school, I knew what I was doing. And I heard things from him that I had only heard at like the WWE level. So he knew exactly what he was talking about. So like good wrestling training, first and foremost, you need to find good training. You just can't go to like half-ass wrestlers training half-ass wrestlers, and that's not going to cut it. And secondly, make sure that your body's in shape. Train, train like an athlete. We're not. I have friends because I go to a gym. Obviously, friends that are power lifters, strongmen. Well, come on, you can do this, and you could probably lift this. You could probably go heavier. I was like, probably could, but while I could do that, all you guys are talking about the muscles you're blowing out, all the muscles you're tearing. I was like, I haven't had any muscle tears. I haven't had any surgeries. I'm training like an athlete. I'm training, pro wrestling specific. Make sure you're training right. Make sure your diet is right. For the love of God, have a car and a driver's license. How else are you going to get to? How else are you going to get to your gigs? But wrestling training is first and foremost, and excuse me, training your body is just as important. And you don't have to look like Brock Lesnar or Dave Batista, but take a look at somebody like Dolph Ziggler, who isn't the biggest guy, but man, that guy's in great shape, isn't he? Like Hangman Page, not the biggest guy in the world, but man, he's in great shape, isn't he? Guys that take being in shape seriously.
Absolutely. And those are fantastic words of wisdom. A couple more questions, and I'm going to let you go enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. But now this is going to be dropping in June, right after my 200th episode. So I'm pre-recording just to get some content ahead. But
Yep.
Any more future dark appearances that may be happening between now and June that by the time this airs, we won't be breaking down the fourth wall?
I'm not sure. I hope to. Without saying too much, I obviously got really good feedback because of the guys I was in the ring with. I got good feedback from them too, and in front of some very important people in AEW. So I'm hoping that by midsummer at least to be back in AEW, show some face, and hopefully, I don't know how you say get bigger opportunities than Dark Order, John Moxley, and Adam Page, but hopefully look for some bigger opportunities, maybe some more time on the clock, maybe some a bigger opportunity to be me and show what I can do, not just what I can do for you. I'm hoping there's more opportunity at AEW. Absolutely, I am.
100%. And I know there will be, because for a guy like you, a guy who has the great mindset that you do and the great understanding of the business, the world's your oyster right now. And that's because of what you've earned, not what you deserve. I learned that from you. And I'm going to quote that a lot of time. I am. So if anybody's stupid enough to not be following you on the wonderful world of social media, where can they find everything Big Time?
They can follow me on Twitter at Big Bill Collier. On Facebook is Bill Collier. I'm not a big social media guy. It's one of those things where I see a lot of guys are doing a lot of social media activity, and that's fantastic. But like raising kids, having a family, and just being a man in general. If I can get the social media, I'll get the social media. I'm usually pretty responsive. If it takes me a little bit of time, even getting this set up between you and me was like, hey, how about this day? Can we make this work? Can we make it work here? It takes a little bit of time. We're all busy people, but give me a follow on social media, on Twitter, Facebook. And like you said, I'm pretty responsive. I usually get back to you, and we'll get things going eventually.
Absolutely. And we did. And it was worth the wait, because the conversation was amazing. And I can honestly say that Big Time Bill Collier, I was a fan of before, but now I could say we're friends. And I can't wait for the borders to open so I can actually see you back at Greektown, because I've never been to a Greektown show. I know, shocker, I found you on the internet. I'm sorry. But when you get here, I can't wait to watch you tear it up in person. I cannot.
And I'll plug Greektown, because Greektown is amazing. It was supposed to be a 2015, I believe. In November 2015, it was supposed to be a one-shot deal. Channing Decker and Trent Gibson were going as the frat. We're going to do this show here in Greektown. We're going to have fun with it. It's going to be a one-off, like a spot show, and great turnout, great crowd response. I kind of pulled Decker aside and I said, "You sure you're just going to do one? Because it seems like you might be onto something here, bud." And because I don't know, he's like, it was a lot of work. I was like, there's a lot of reward too. I was like, you rewarded these fans with a great, a great event here. You could probably do 2 or 3 of these a year if you got an open weekend. 2 or 3 a year turned into 5 years later, we're every month until the shutdown. So I'm looking to get back to Greektown soon, and they let you fly there, man. They let you spread your wings, and whatever you want to do, you go ahead and do it. That's one of the best places I work because there's no restrictions. There's no restrictions on what you can do or what he will allow you to do. He will allow you to do anything you want to do as long as you're being safe. Here we go. It's one of my favorite places to work, Greektown Wrestling.
Absolutely. And when you do come back here, since we are now friends on social media, I know you'll message me and be like, hey, guess what? The borders are open. I'm coming back. I'm buying tickets right away that day. Even if they're not on sale, I'm going to buy them somehow. I don't know how, but I'll get them.
And my promise to you, when you do, I'll have a complimentary big time t-shirt for you.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I will wear it with pride. Bill, you take care of yourself. You enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as soon as this drops, I'm going to tag you and everything. So let's just get big time, more big time, because he deserves it. 14 Absolutely. Years in, and the engine and the tank are still full. And that's what we've learned. All right, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good day, man.
All right. Peace out, guys. Take care. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode on all available podcast platforms and hosted on Podbean. Also, check us out on YouTube at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And if you feel the need to buy some sweet merch, check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Leaving the scene with no trace, none in my league. You out of place, I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going state to state.